Hello and welcome to Strength for Tomorrow Radio. It's Stuart Thompson back in again. It is April. I think it was February the last time we did it, but we're back in. We've got another episode to go. Looking forward to sharing some thoughts with you. Hope you had a nice, what all has there been? There's been Valentine's Day, there's been Pancake Tuesday, there's been Easter just last week, which was cool. So hopefully you had a nice time. So I've had this thought for a while. It's not just inspired on the back of Easter and cream eggs and chocolate eggs and all the rest of it, but I've had this thought for a while. And the idea is moderation. Everything in moderation. You might have heard that advice before. Sounds good, sounds solid, sounds reasonable, sounds balanced. It doesn't demonize any specific food. The problem is it's also completely useless for most people, for the vast majority of people. And the reason is the way we define moderation is so vague at best. It's completely misleading at worst. Moderation means so many different things to different people. So you could ask 10 different people and get 10 different answers. When it comes to things like sugar, alcohol, ultra-processed foods, refined carbohydrates, moderation often turns into a lot more, and we don't even realize it. So let's break down why this approach doesn't work and what to do instead. I'm not saying this is for everybody, but it is for a lot of us. It's for a lot of people, especially if you do struggle with your weight, if you struggle with trying to maintain your physique or get into shape. What does moderation even mean? If you ask 10 people what moderation looks like, you'll get 10 different answers probably, as I said. For some, moderation means having a dessert once a week. For others, it's a bit like having sugar in every meal or having something, a sweet treat every day. And you can have a little bit, you can have a square of dark chocolate every day, and it's absolutely fine. Or a square of the normal brown chocolate, which ironically is less calories per 100 grams, but that's another rabbit hole we'll not go into. But the food industry loves the idea of moderation because it removes responsibility. They don't have to tell you how much is too much, because that would be very individual and personalized. Just that you should enjoy yourself and enjoy it responsibly. And again, very vague. The gambling industry is the same. Gamble responsibly. They're always saying these sorts of messages because it basically means they're abdicated of their responsibility. They don't have to tell you what a level or amount is responsible or not. They don't have to get into that discussion. They're just telling you to do it, right? But what does responsibility even mean whenever the modern food environment, the modern food industry is set up to make overconsumption the default? If you think of what we're consuming now compared to what we used to consume, it's insane. I know seed oils are getting a lot of press at the minute and they're getting the blame for why there's so much obesity in America and possibly the United Kingdom as well. But I don't think seed oils are the sole contributor of why we are so overweight and obese as a nation in the Western world. I really don't. I think maybe it's part of it. There's inflammation and stuff can come from it, but to put it basic, we're over consuming. We're consuming more energy than we are expending. And if you think of that in monetary terms, you end up in debt, which ironically every country's in debt and lots of people are in credit card debt and things like that. But again, it's another rabbit hole we'll not go down. But what does responsibility mean? Basically, it makes financial sense, right? If you go into a shop and you see chocolate bar, right? I don't even know what much is a chocolate bar now. Inflation, it could be anything. It could be a fiver, who knows? Say it's £1, right, for a chocolate bar. Or you could get a multi-pack, like a 5-pack for £4, right? So monetary, you're like, oh, do the maths there. 5 bars. Ah, that makes sense. I'll buy more of them. That's better value. All right, I'll get the multi-pack. But whenever it comes to things like chocolate bars or processed foods in general, buying a bulk makes sense financially. And because they last longer, because they're so processed, they're going to be long dated. It's not like buying a whole armful of fruit and you're walking out with this big basket of fruit, which is going to be rotten in a few days because it's probably traveled half the world to get to us, bananas, etc. But it's not like that. You can put them in your cupboard and you think, I'll eat away at them over the next 6 years. And you know rightly they're going to be done within the end of the week, right? You know rightly you're going to sit down to Netflix the weekend, you're going to get bored, you're going to go to the cupboard and you go, oh, there's my multi-pack, I'll have one. the program's a bit boring, and then you have another, and then another, and then another, and then before you know it, your multi-pack's all gone in one weekend. Truth is, moderation is completely meaningless without context, without some sort of parameters. What might be moderate for you, what might be moderate for me, are two different things potentially. So if someone is lean, someone's active, someone is metabolically healthy, their mitochondria, their cells are functioning properly, they're young, right? We often hear people saying, oh, you're young, you can get away with eating that. And I get what they mean, but are any of us really getting away with it whenever it comes to what we're feeding ourselves and what it's contributing to chronic illness down the line? Are any of us getting away with it? That's the question, right? I guess none of us really know. But what might be moderate for somebody who's lean and athletic and is doing 5Ks, 10Ks, running, racing, cycling, swimming, doing whatever, is completely different for someone who struggles with their weight, has struggled for years, has low energy levels, has cravings, binge eats. Two completely different things. Women going through menopause. Someone who's maybe just full of aches and pains, full of stress, really busy with work, can't find time to exercise. They struggle to fit in gym sessions or struggle to fit in time for themselves to care for themselves by doing exercise, compared to somebody who makes it their whole life, makes their whole identity, right? So two different types of people, and moderation is going to work better for one than the other. Somebody else has their focus is on their body and looking after themselves. The other person is just trying to get by. They're just trying to survive. They're trying to earn enough money for themselves, for their family. They're trying to put all their hours into their work, right? So there's two completely different sets of people here. And those are the two, I guess, extremes, if you want to think about that. One person's older and the other person's younger. That's the other way of looking at it. But whenever we look at things like sugar, alcohol, processed foods, the idea of moderation, it becomes even more crazy. It becomes even more unrealistic in the real world. I always joke with people, communism, it's a good idea, right? We're all even, we're all equal, we're doing the same things. It's a good idea in theory. I think someone told me this one time, going to school in the bus, and I was like, I never thought anything about it, but they were like, yeah, communism is a nice idea in theory because, it'd be nice to be just everybody be equal, we all be even. But the problem is, it doesn't work in reality because we're all driven by something. We're all driven by self-interest, essentially, even if we don't admit it. And not that that's always a bad thing. It can be. But again, going down a rabbit hole here. But the idea of moderation like that is nice in theory. Sounds sensible. Sounds like, yeah, that would work. That makes sense. But we're not wired that way. We're just not wired that way. There's something within us, and it's for some people more than others, where we need more. Either it's stress, dealing with boredom, just brought up that way, cleaning your plate and wanting more, going for seconds, all those sorts of things. Maybe you just got good stomach capacity. Maybe you can handle lots of junk food and not suffer the bowel issues that some of us do. Remember, there's a new phrase we have in the toilet in the gym. If you've been in the toilet recently, you'll have seen it. Basically, be kind to your behind. If you have to wipe more than twice, you need to sort out your nutrition. And it's kind of a joke, but it's kind of true, right? Whenever you're eating better, your poos are better. To put it bluntly, that's what happens, okay? But why is sugar in moderation a problem? Sugar isn't just empty calories. It messes with our metabolism. It increases our cravings and contributes to inflammation. There's a process called glycation. We're probably going to do an episode on that at some stage because I think it's really important to talk about, think about, and to emphasize in a world where we're only thinking in terms of energy in, energy out, calorie deficit and all of that. But the more sugar you eat, the more you want. It's not about willpower, it's about brain chemistry. Yes, sometimes some people have better willpower than others, but the fact of the matter is, if you eat more sugar, you want more sugar. Sugar hijacks our brain's reward system. It triggers dopamine spikes the way that's kind of similar to addictive drugs. And I know there's a discussion, no, sugar's not like heroin. I promise you it's not like heroin. And it's not, but kind of is in a way, right? Ask someone who's addicted to sugar to go off it, and you'll soon see there's stark similarities between someone who's coming off drugs, coming off nicotine, coming off some other addictive substance. They're moody, right? They get all like, they just want that sugar rush. So whenever someone says, just have a little, They're ignoring how that little can quickly turn into a lot for some people. If you're wired, if you're predisposed to just needing that little bit more, and maybe you're not affected like that. Sugar is also hidden in everything. That's the other problem, right? It's in sauces, even the healthy stuff and healthy snacks, or it's marketed and branded as healthy. And again, healthy is one of those terms that marketers love because they can't be pinned down to it. What does it mean? It's so subjective. It can be manipulated and tweaked and twisted and turned. It's one of those words you really have to watch out for whenever you're buying anything. I guess if you're looking at something that says healthy on it, it's probably, you probably shouldn't buy it in the first place because you don't get that on fruit, right? You don't get a sticker on a bit of fruit or vegetable or something that we would almost unanimously consider as healthy, and it's like healthy, right? We just know it is, right? We know rightly, and it's not marketed or promoted the same. But what feels like moderation might be going way overboard, and we don't even know it because of our shopping habits. And the problem when it comes to alcohol in moderation, it's defined, I guess, as 1 drink per day for women, 2 for men. There's some of those markers are put in place. But let's be honest, most people don't drink that way. Unless you're in Germany. I remember going to Germany one time. It's like a university trip. We spent a week there. And it was around the end of Oktoberfest, I think. And I had these ideas where I don't really drink, right? I don't drink at all. It didn't bother me in the slightest. I was there to learn. No, I wasn't there to learn. I was supposed to be there to learn, but it was a week spent there at the University of Kempton. It was good fun. And they had a party in their student union on the Friday night. And I remember just walking around thinking, this is not like our parties at home. And what I mean by that is people weren't fighting. They weren't smashing bottles. They weren't getting really rowdy and kicking the place, just damaging the place and being destructive. The place was still clean. People were still being respectful. It was it wasn't like what I was used to in Coleraine and Port Stewart. Whenever I went to university there, that was when I was up there. We did like an exchange thing for a week. But anyways, unless you're German, you're probably not drinking one glass per day, right? 1 drink per day. And the fact is, some of us struggle more with this than others. If you are predisposed to being an alcoholic, if you are wired that way, moderation is completely bonkers. And that's why moderation is a bad bit of advice for some people. It's not the only reason, but that's one reason. The reality is alcohol affects your sleep negatively, recovery, hormone levels, decision making, and the idea that a small amount is good for you, it's been largely debunked. 0 is the healthiest amount. Why am I holding a marker? 0 is the healthiest amount of alcohol you can consume if you're thinking of optimal health. The negatives of it far outweigh any potential benefits, and for many people, moderate drinking means more than they realize. A good example is, do you drive home after you go out for a drink with your friends? Maybe you do. Maybe you can limit the one. Fair play to you. Very good. Well done, you. But for a lot of people, no, they probably get a taxi or they get a lift. Why is that? Because it's negatively impacted us in more ways than one. The other thing is alcohol is often paired with bad food choices. You just have to go into a chippy at about 1 o'clock in the morning, 12 o'clock at night, whenever, if you're a bit older, like me. If you go out that time of night and you try to order anything in the takeaway and you go into the takeaway, there's a lot of people intoxicated and they are eating, they're making really bad food choices, among other choices that aren't great, right? You're never craving a salad, are you, after a few beers? You're never going to be, oh, I'd love some avocado right now, smashed avocado on toast with an egg. No, you're never going to ask for a salad, are you? You're going to go for chips, you're going to go for pizza, you're going to go for a kebab, you're going to go for something fried, fatty, loaded with salt. Just not a good, healthy choice, right? And ultra-processed foods, they're designed to be overeaten, right? It's literally why they've been processed to the point that they have, because they want you to consume more of it so they can sell more of it so they can make more money. There's nothing wrong with making money, but just so we're aware, we're on the same page. That's why they're made like that. They are engineered to be hyper palatable so that you will want more. Whenever you get a little, you want more. They hit the perfect balance of salt, sugar, and fat. And that makes them impossible to stop eating. The old Pringles analogy, right? Crisps. You don't eat just one crisp. Once you start, I know I do this, why I never buy them. Once I start, I never eat them, right? But see if somebody opens a pack or gives me a box, I will eat the whole packet easily. Family pack. I'm talking family pack. That's why I don't want them in my house. I don't want to start eating them because I can't stop it. And maybe you're just like, Stuart, you're just really weak-minded. You've just really poor self-control. Shocking for a trainer, but maybe you're right. But I don't think I'm the only one. And if I am, help me. Send some help. Moderation just doesn't work with any of these foods because they're literally built to override our body's natural satiety signals. The whole Ozempic GLP-1 phase is upon us. So everybody's wanting these drugs, right? And there's more and more evidence coming out that they are not as harmless as they've been billed to be. It's not until they've been mass rolled out among the population that we're saying, yes, people are losing weight. The bad thing is it's muscle weight as well as fat. So you're losing metabolic active tissue, and we could probably do a whole show on that as well. But essentially, you get sent a signal, GLP-1, hunger hormone signal says, I'm full, don't need any more, stop eating, you greedy pig. You're playing against a stacked deck. You're playing against multinational corporations. You're playing against billion-dollar, billion-pound corporations, and willpower is not going to stop you, right? If you think, I can eat one crisp, like, show me. Send me a video of you just eating one crisp, and then I want to observe it. I want to see you just eating one crisp, and then not eat any more the rest of the night. Maybe you can do it. I would love to see it though. What about refined carbohydrates? Blood sugar roller coaster, some people would call it. Think white bread, pastry, cereal, and most snack foods. They digest quickly. They spike your blood sugar and then leave you craving and your blood sugar crashing, and then you feel like an energy lull. It's like me in the afternoon after a night of not much sleep with the kids. This cycle makes moderation really tricky, right? Because these foods aren't very fibrous. They don't take up much space in your stomach. So they fill you for 10 minutes, and then half an hour later, what's happening is you're going to feel hungry again, and then we're going to go back for more. If you start your day with a moderate amount of refined carbohydrates, say a bowl of cereal. And by the way, have you ever looked at the pack of cereal, looked at Cocoa Pops or something, and you've looked and seen what the recommended amount is? It is like this much, right? This much. And it's ridiculous amount of calories, ridiculous amount of sugar in it. But that's toast as well. You could say the same about toast. If you have toast for breakfast, what else could you have, basically, is what I'm trying to ask you. It's not going to keep you feeling full. And that could be the start of your problems, is during the day. The very start of the day, you are eating something that's not going to satisfy you or keep you feeling full. It's going to muck about your blood sugar. It's going to muck about your hunger hormones. You're already setting yourself up for hunger and cravings later on in the day. What feels like a small reasonable size portion can lead to an all-day struggle to manage hunger and energy levels. It's going to be like this, because if you're constantly eating refined carbohydrates, and that's the biggest amount of your diet, it's the largest portion, you're going to be all over the place. So what you do instead, I would recommend protein. I would recommend a decent amount of protein, and something that is, something that's going to level out your blood sugar. So things where the glycemic load is not as much. What is the alternative? If everything in moderation doesn't work, what should you do instead? I would suggest setting clear boundaries. So instead of having, the vague idea of moderation in your head, moderation, what does that mean? If you're having something every day, is that moderation? Because it adds up over the week, it adds up over the month, it adds up over a year and over your lifetime, and could contribute to things like chronic illness. And I guess we don't really know until we get a health scare, we get some blood results back, and we realize we've got something. We don't really realize what impact all those decisions and those moderate amounts are having on us until we get something like that. And it shouldn't take something like that, sure, it shouldn't, to make us pay more attention to our diets, to what we're consuming. But having clear boundaries, maybe that means sugar only at weekends. Maybe that means having a treat once a week. Maybe that means saving alcohol for a special occasion only. And whenever you do, don't get absolutely bladdered. But also just accept the fact that it's not good for you. Like, acknowledge the fact that these things are not good for you. Yes, there are some things that are bad for the human body, inherently bad, just like without question. No, you can be like, don't demonize this food and don't demonize that food. I guess it goes back to, what do you classify as food? I heard recently there were some scientists and they wanted to do this experiment on monkeys, and they wanted to give them some Krispy Kreme donuts. And the zookeeper was like, "Oh no, 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 no! We couldn't give that to the monkeys. That'd be cruel." I'd be like, why would that be cruel? We just want to see what it's going to do to the monkeys. We want to see what sort of impact it has on them, how their behavior is, and all those sorts of things. And the guy's like, "Oh no, that'd be cruel. That's junk food. We wouldn't do that." But yeah, we eat it, right? We put it in our bodies, not every day, hopefully, but semi-regular basis. Too often that we would care to admit. But whatever boundaries you set, I would recommend sticking to that, and try to keep ultra-processed foods out of the house altogether. Try and stock up on healthier options, healthier alternatives, things that we know are good for our body, are going to nourish and sustain us and keep our bodies healthy, keep our cells healthy, and help fight chronic disease rather than contribute to it. And going back to that, whole foods, real foods, prioritizing protein. This is the best way to naturally reduce our cravings and keep overeating on to a minimum. Is to fill up on real nutrient-dense foods, lean protein, healthy fats, fibers, carbohydrates, vegetables that will leave you feeling full, feeling satisfied. And be honest about your triggers. Get to know yourself. Some foods just don't work well for some people. If a moderate amount of sugar leads you down a slippery slope, it might be better to cut it out altogether. And if that's somebody else and you're listening to this, if that's one of your friends, don't try and coax them into eating that bit of cake. Don't tell your wife that she should have a bar of chocolate. Don't tell your boyfriend that, no, it's okay, you can have this packet of crisps. If that's their trigger, you need to respect that and you need to let them do that. Now, there is a part of discernment needed. You need to understand that some people don't get this. Some people are looking at this maybe the wrong way, an unhelpful way, and it can lead to eating disorders and things like that. I understand that. But you need to understand that obesity is an eating disorder. You need to understand that there's more eating disorders than just the ones that make you thin, the ones that lead to more extreme behavior. There's a slow, steady state and a slow, steady burn in eating disorder terms. And one of those is obesity. It doesn't happen overnight. It happens over time. And there's all sorts of consequences from that, like we're all pretty aware of, right? And look at the big picture. Don't just look at what you eat and look at, does it fit into your macros? That's not the only consideration to have, but think of the big picture. Think of if you have 3 meals a day, you've got 90 meals a month. How are you allocating your meals across the month? Are your habits leading you towards better energy, towards strength, towards health, or are they keeping you stuck in cycles of cravings and fatigue and frustration in the gym? Because remember, your nutrition is tied so tightly to the gym. So if you're trying to get somewhere in the gym, whether it's an aesthetic goal, a fitness goal, a strength goal, and you're not eating properly, you're having things in moderation, which aren't really moderation because it's going down a slippery slope. How are you going to deal with that? Moderation sounds really good in theory, but in practice, it's just an excuse so often to religiously eat things that don't serve us and are actually doing us harm. If you want to know what I mean, look up things like glycation. Google that. Go down that rabbit hole. Look up metabolic syndrome. Look up what the consequences of those two things are. If you're struggling with energy, with your weight, with cravings, it might be time to ditch the idea of everything in moderation, a little bit of everything, and start making clearer, more defined choices. And you don't have to be perfect. None of us are perfect. Don't get this confused. I'm not saying that I eat perfect all the time. I've just told you that I'll eat a whole packet of crisps if it comes my way and I start it. So that's why I try not to start it and I try not to have it near me or in my house because I know my self-control is terrible. But be honest with yourself and be realistic. Just accept that some things aren't good to consume for humans, right? Like the monkeys. What are your thoughts on moderation? Have you found that certain foods don't work for you in moderate amounts? Have you gotten to know yourself well enough to understand that your willpower isn't great, like myself? I don't want to argue your limitations. I don't want to be that person that tells you can't do this because of this, this, and this. I want to expect more of you. I want you to expect more of yourself and not argue why you can't do something, but let you figure it out, right? Because we've all got people in our lives, and you'll find those people who will be more than happy to tell you to make excuses for why you're not either performing the way you should be performing, why you're not living why you should be living, or how you how you know you should or could be living. But we don't need those sorts of people telling us what we can't do. We want people who can inspire us to do greater things, to do better things, and to help us to do those things as well, to get out of the way almost, to let us do those things. Can you even have those things in your house? Let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear your opinions on it. I'd love to hear your feedback. If you want to join the conversation, this is going to be on YouTube. You're going to see it on YouTube and Instagram and on Spotify as well. Hopefully on Facebook too. There'll be some shorts coming out. But if you want to hear more on this topic, keep tuning in to Strength for Tomorrow Radio. Read our articles on crossfunctionalfitness.co.uk website. And until next time, train today so you can be stronger tomorrow.